So hi there everybody, hope all is well. Today we're looking at this, the Panasonic GH7. Internal RAW, 32-bit float, and crazy good autofocus. So guys, this video is sponsored by Motion Array, the best place to get all your assets for your videos. But more about Motion Array later in this video. Did you actually hear the right thing? Does this camera actually shoot in RAW? Yes, it does. It shoots in Apple ProRes RAW, both in HQ and both in normal mode. And it shoots that in 5.7K. And of course, it also shoots the Open Gate 6K that we're normally used to from all new Panasonic cameras. Now, this camera has the exact same sensor as the Panasonic G9 II, which is a great thing because that sensor is actually very nice. However, Panasonic is doing a few things that are a little bit different to squeeze everything out of that sensor as is possible. I know for a lot of people the internal RAW will make this camera compete with cinema cameras such as the Blackmagic cameras, but for me I'm not sure if the almost bigger feature is that you can actually record 32-bit float straight into the camera. That means when you're actually out shooting and you've got your file working, you take in your file to your computer and you will have 32-bit float audio file in-baked with the video, which is killer. No syncing in post, nothing like that. The only thing, of course, you will need to have the XLR2 adapter, which is very similar to the XLR1 adapter that Panasonic made for the GH5 and other cameras after that. However, there are a few key differences here. One is that they've actually made this adapter that lets you put XLR mics or shotgun mics straight on the camera, which is great. Another thing is going to be that on this you actually have a 3.5mm jack, and this doesn't sound like a big thing, but it is a big thing because this camera doesn't have internal float when using the normal 3.5mm jack. So when you're actually using something like the DJI Mic 2 that I'm using right now, you pop this on here and you get 32-bit float straight directly into the camera's video file and audio file, which is such a killer feature. And I actually see a lot of people using the XLR2 adapter with like DJI microphones or like with a normal Rode microphone just to get that 32-bit float and not think about audio levels at all. And this is a thing that I've done now the past week that I've been shooting with the camera. So another feature that Panasonic also have given us now with the XLR2 adapter is that you can actually shoot straight into the XLR2 adapter, but at the same time, if you want audio from your normal sources from the camera, you can actually get that as well, which is a cool feature that haven't seen before. So since the Panasonic GH6 came out, Panasonic has given us a lot of great features with their newer cameras, such as the S5 II, S5 IIX, the G2. Now, all of those features, I believe, are coming to the Panasonic GH7 as well. Now we're looking at things like Frame.io integration within the camera, which is great. You will have those LUTs from the S9, which is great. And you will also get that great stabilization, which is supercharged when using this. Now, when it comes to stabilization, Micro Four Thirds sensors are probably the perfect match between image quality and also good stabilization. Panasonic has also given us the E-stabilization that has come to the Panasonic S5 Mark II and Mark IIX, which crops into the sensor but will almost give you gimbal-like stabilization. So I'm not sure if there's actually any feature that Panasonic has left out when it comes to the Panasonic GH7. The only thing that I can actually think about is probably internal ND filters, but I'm guessing that has to do with the flange distance between the sensor and the lenses. And I think the Panasonic GH7 is actually a perfect small camera for everybody who's looking to have like a really small running and gunning setup. Now, I would say that this could actually now be the perfect documentary camera. Now, here you can see I have the Panasonic Leica 9mm, but the best thing about the Micro Four Thirds system is actually the lenses and how small they are. Now, even though the body is basically as large as an S5 Mark IIX, we're actually looking at the lenses, and the lenses is the big thing here, that you can actually get really small lenses. And if you compare a Panasonic 24-70 full frame to the Panasonic 20-60, which I have here somewhere, the lens size is actually going to be the biggest difference. So as you know guys, I'm a big fan of the Micro Four Thirds system. I did shoot very much with the GH4, also a lot with the Panasonic GH5 and quite a lot with the GH6 as well. And I'm a big fan of those cameras, but I did go out and shoot a lot with the Blackmagic 4K as well. And now that we have internal RAW on the Panasonic GH7, I think this is probably a camera that will make a lot of people switch to this system because of that internal RAW. Now, one thing that I really love about this camera is what this camera tells us about the future when it comes to Panasonic. Now, I'm guessing the day that the Panasonic S1H Mark II or whatever that camera will be called, I'm guessing that that camera also will have internal RAW. I'm guessing that the XLR2 will also be able to shoot in 32-bit float with that camera. So those are two features that I more or less expect coming to the next full frame version of this. Now, the only way that Panasonic could beat this camera, the GH7, was if they had some crazy ass way of including some kind of ND filters in that camera, and if Panasonic did that, they would probably go out and compete all the other video cameras when it comes to pro-end video. And I wouldn't actually be surprised if they did something like that, just to have an edge on both Sony, Canon, Nikon, and all the other competitors out there. So one thing that I even went out testing was the autofocus, because I have been shooting with the S5 Mark II X, and I did shoot with the S9 for a couple of days, and I know the Panasonic autofocus now is really, really good. I only think that when it comes to the software, Panasonic could probably just tell its autofocus to, if you want to focus on the face, stay only on the face. Don't focus on anything in front of you. So it could probably go in and just have different modes for that, like a product mode where you did like something like this, it would focus on your subject and then go back to the face. But because when it comes to the accuracy, I don't think Panasonic is after Sony at all. I think Panasonic is as accurate, and the same thing here with the Panasonic GH7. Whenever I've pointed the camera to a subject or a person or whatever I've been shooting, it's been spot on basically every time, and I really go out and trust Panasonic autofocus nowadays. So I'm not gonna even go out and make a Panasonic autofocus test, as I've done a lot when it comes to both GH5, GH6, but on the GH7 the autofocus is so good. Also, I really love the Panasonic interface when it comes to the autofocus. You can really go and pinpoint if you're shooting a couple of people and you see that the camera actually finds all of the people. You can actually use the joystick to jump between the people that you really want the cameras to focus on. So if you're shooting and you want a specific person to be in focus, you can actually choose that person and it will follow that person. Now, the only thing I wish that Panasonic implemented is that if you could really fast go from autofocus to manual focus, because at some times when you're focusing on a person and they're walking behind something, you want that the focus should be in the exact same place, and you can actually do this, but then you have to press the knob. I wish that you can actually assign one of the function buttons to do this very quickly. So if you are following a person, you are in autofocus, and if you see that something is coming into the frame, you go out of autofocus, it's going to stay at manual focus, and once that subject has passed, you can go back to autofocus and choose the autofocus that you had before. And I hope that Panasonic implements this, so you can actually go from autofocus to manual focus with only the press of one button, so you don't have to go to this, because a lot of the times you don't actually know if you're in manual focus, continuous, or single autofocus. So that's a thing that they could fix in firmware. And one thing that's as cool as the Panasonic GH7 is going to be today's sponsor, Motion Array. And I have to tell you guys that I've been using Motion Array for the past few years, and Motion Array has been a great partner to have. They have everything from graphics to stock footage to music to templates. They have basically everything you need to make your video really stand out in a crowd. Now, one thing that's really cool with Motion Array is that they also work with all different platforms. So it doesn't matter if you're like me that both edit in Final Cut Pro X, DaVinci Resolve, and After Effects. Motion Array got you covered with effects and presets that work for all the different platforms. So if you saw all those cool titles and transitions in the beginning of this video, they all came from Motion Array, in the same way as all of my other videos on this channel. And what's even cooler is that Motion Array will give you $50 off with the link in the description on an annual subscription. So if you really want to make your videos stand out, go get that Motion Array, guys. Thank you so much to Motion Array. Now, one cool thing with the GH line has been throughout the years that you've actually been able to use different lenses on this. So even though you have an option to use these really small Micro Four Thirds options and lenses, you can actually also do something like get yourself an adapter, a speed booster, and get to use your full frame lenses on this. So that's why a thing that I really love about this system is that you can both use small lenses like this, but also use bigger lenses if you want. Now, one thing that I'm really curious to see is once you put a speed booster, like a modern speed booster, can we actually use the phase autofocus on this? Because if somebody can actually get autofocus to work with like Canon EF lenses, which actually works really nice on the S5 II and S5 IIX with the Sigma adapter, that would actually be a game changer, because that means that with the GH7 you can actually both use full frame lenses with autofocus and also native micro four thirds lenses with autofocus. So I'm hoping to be able to get some kind of a speed booster to try that out, but it would be so cool if we could both have the options to use bigger lenses but also smaller lenses. So one thing that we really need to talk about is something that I wasn't expecting when I first heard about the Panasonic GH7 was the increase in dynamic range. Now on the GH6, Panasonic did something where there, in some instances, I've almost forgotten that they did this, but you could actually make the image get wider dynamic range. I think it was called the dynamic range boost, and it worked in some instances with the Panasonic GH6. And I actually tried out that feature, made a video about it, and I thought it was really cool, but it had some limitations. I don't remember if it was that you only could use like ISO, very high ISOs, but what Panasonic has done on the GH7 is that it's baked in now in the normal footage. So the feature is gone, but basically what they've done is that they've added the feature to almost all footage under 60 frames. So if you're shooting in 120p, you won't get that increase in dynamic range, but everything under 60 or under, you will actually get that better dynamic range with this wizardry that Panasonic has done. And you can actually see that it's more dynamic range that we're used to from a micro four thirds camera. Okay, so one thing that I did a couple of days ago was to actually shoot a real project with the Panasonic GH7, and I wouldn't recommend anybody when you're doing a review of a camera to go out and shoot a real project. But here's the thing, the client told me that they were looking to shoot something for social media and they wanted it to be used both vertically and horizontally, and I had actually been using the camera for I think 5 days when they asked me, and I was like, okay, I'm probably going to use the GH7 for this. And I was very upfront with the client, and I told them that this is a pre-production camera. If anything goes wrong, I have my other bigger cameras with me, but I did use the Panasonic GH7. I used 32-bit float. I didn't use the RAW because it was like an interview and it was for 50 minutes, and shooting in RAW for 50 minutes, that takes a lot of space. But I did use it on a real shoot, and the client was really happy. When looking at the footage, the dynamic range was great, the sound was great, everything was great, so they were really happy. Now, one thing that I was really surprised about was that when I came to the shoot, they asked me if we could do some follow shots, and this wasn't anything that I had planned before, because basically what we were there to do was to shoot an interview. But then they asked us if we could do some B-roll, and I was sure, great. And they asked us also, can you also do some following shots? And I'm not a big fan of gimbals, but I do use them when I really have to, but I didn't bring a gimbal with me this time. So what I did, I used the Panasonic GH7 in that I'm not sure what it's called, enhanced electronical stabilization mode, that it's high. And the footage that I got from that was actually crazy. It wasn't gimbal-like, but for me that's actually a good thing. I'm not a fan of that floaty video anymore that I was a couple of years ago. So to shoot with the Panasonic GH7 without the gimbal and still be able to follow subjects is so damn good. And also here I'm using the camera with a smaller cage, and one thing that I had forgotten was that most of the time cages are there to protect, and they also add the benefit of putting extra stuff on your setup. However, the small rig cage, I'm not sure if this is the Black Mamba, they have some different names for it, but I didn't remember, but this cage also has this I'm not sure what to call it, but it exaggerates the grip a little bit, so it makes it easier to hold the camera, which is really great. And I had forgotten about it, because this is actually the same cage that you can get for the Panasonic GH6, which is, yeah, it's actually a really great cage. And on the left side handle, there is a NATO handle, so that's a cool thing if you want to have a handle. Now, I really wish that Panasonic had some kind of a helmet. They called it the helmet for the Panasonic GH5, where we could have the XLR2 protected as well, but I'm guessing they will come with something like that. But yeah, great cage from Small Rig. So one thing that's really interesting is that the Panasonic GH7 is probably the first camera that I've tried that hasn't left me wanting for more features. Well, almost as a conclusion, I really think the Panasonic GH7 has become some kind of a great masterpiece win for everybody who needs a camera that has a small footprint, and it basically has all the features that anyone could want from a cinema camera that's small. It has the RAW, it has the 32-bit float, it has great autofocus, it has the best IBIS that you can get there. So I'm not really sure what more Panasonic can do in a future camera. It would probably be ND filters, but I'm guessing the flange distance is too small for that. But what they've done with the Panasonic GH7 is to bring it to a level where I'm not sure if I even could dream about a lot more features.